Hello, Shane. This is exciting.
Hey Rick, thanks for joining me today. I'm glad
Good to
we
be
made some time to get together to talk about seating change and the four cups.
and our first YouTube channel video. It's a monumentous moment, right?
Right, it's all coming together, and now we get some time to discuss a few things and share some things so that people can understand what we're doing, what we've been doing, and what we're gonna start doing more of.
I love it. All right. Well, let's start by sharing that Seeding Change is the bioregional impact network of the Four Cups, which is an entity that's been strategizing for businesses and nonprofits for the last 15 years and has worked with launch projects, growth projects, projects that had sales in the billions. And it was part of the movement from the triple bottom line to the quadruple bottom line in business in the last decade and a half. Um, Shane, share a couple more things about Seeding Change that you think are highlights they should know if you don't mind.
Well, Seating Change came together with a real team with a wide variety of experiences and different disciplines and experience from different projects around the world. And it really kind of came together through shared connections to the island of Kauai, where I'm from in Hawaii, and various impact organizations really on a global scale, ranging from Hawaii to Mexico, um, to other locations. In Borrego Springs and beyond. And so seeding change is really synergizing alliances to build capacity and implement innovative solutions to maximize return on investment and regenerative impact, right? And so what we're focusing on is reorienting investment, real estate development, and economic streams around several things, right? Preserving biocultures and sacred sites, pairing profit with impact, but creating systems that use innovative technology and innovative approaches to do a better job across multiple industries.
Well said. It's just basically wrapping it all up to be able to continue to grow and drive profit as we build and innovate to make things more regenerative business, regenerative real estate. And we'll talk about that. How do you see the leaders in their industries and sectors effectively navigating constant challenges and pressures of managing business finances, competition, and economies while they strategize for, and try and have sustainable growth as part of their business model?
As a business owner um, or a business manager, we see a lot of people dealing with, it's an interesting economy these days. So what we tend to focus on, and what I see a lot of, is the challenge between really understanding the systems in your business uh, of people, profit, performance, and purpose, and how all those driving factors come together within business, within education, within broader enterprises and systems to really create that healthy interlocking network of systems that create sustainability, that create stable profit. Um, you know, the successful business of today is often the outdated business of 5 to 10 years from now. And so business leaders are really challenged with being adaptive. Um, you know, the push from technology in areas like AI, applied material technology, the global community and the global sphere becoming a much tighter network are all challenges for business owners and business leaders. And the systems that they rely on are evolving and need to be evolved for business to stay competitive, especially at an enterprise level. And so addressing those constant challenges and pressures really takes a lot of effort, but when you have the right variables and the right strategies, it can be done in a way that achieves multiple types of value creation, value capture, and value delivery for organizations.
Well, I love the way that you said that, and the four things you brought up, which we've referred to as the four cups for a long time: the people, profit, performance, and purpose. That balancing was what led several of the members of the team to come to the conclusion that this all points toward building regeneratively, right? And for businesses and enterprises and nonprofits, figuring out where the holes are when we're not regenerative. I mean, can you think of some examples that we could share, or an example that would talk about how a business or an industry could get derailed because they weren't regenerative, and how that's where it becomes valuable, right? We don't think, well, hey, I'm trying to make more money, so I definitely need to be spending a lot of time on impact and environment and community. It's almost like they battle against each other. But when we realize that those things do affect the bottom line, the long-term sustainability, and as you said, that make the successful business today into the unsuccessful business tomorrow. Can you give us like a case study or an example that might look at that, and how the not thinking ahead for regenerative practices could derail not only a company, but a whole industry?
It happens all the time. Business leaders and business owners eventually hit a wall, and often they're not sure why. And so one of the reasons is that these four areas of people and purpose, performance, and profit are really kind of the precursor to being sustainable and regenerative over long periods of time. And so the longer you're in business, the more likely you are to hit a wall on a systems level, unless you have these four kind of quadrants or four spheres of business really strategically implemented within your structures and systems. Now, if we take an example like the agroforestry business, right? Over longer periods of time, and we've seen this in China, planting and monocropping and certain types of production in terms of managing your production line and your vendors and how you source your materials, in the agroforestry business has led to about they're on their fourth cycle now of 20 to 25 year plantings of trees. And it was thought to be regenerative because they're replanting trees faster than they're consuming and using them. And now that they're in about the third harvest of the cycle on a 25-year cycle, what's happening is the industry is completely collapsing because demineralization of the soils have left the ground so that trees won't grow anymore, right? Nobody was tracking the mineralization rates of the soil and what the standing carrying capacity of the forest was. And they were just kind of replanting and planting and replanting without any soil development. And so without the right metrics to measure soil mineralization and quality, they approached a ledge and they've started to fall off of it, where the environment can't sustain that rate of production, and the entire industry kind of collapses around it. Now, they'll try to remineralize the soil. It'll take years, but it's a good example of how, if you're not planning ahead for success in really strategic ways that are holistic and incorporate an enterprise approach where production and labor and how you procure them are part of the foundation of your business systems and analytics, eventually you get to a point where you hit this wall and your systems start to break down.
I love that you brought up that example. We were advising a group in Madagascar that was literally the next phase of that, because they were working with a land trust of farmers who were trying to protect their land from the furniture agriculture business, because they didn't know if the practices were changing, but they just saw those companies who had ravaged their own land wanting to buy and get wood from the land where these farmers were, and they didn't know if they were going to, maybe they've changed the practices, I don't know, right? I didn't research that part from the buyers. But in case they hadn't, then they were about to leave a whole bunch of scorched earth again, and these guys were not interested in that. So you can see what happens and how it affects and how it spreads. It doesn't just happen in my corner or your corner of the planet. It happens as we continue to grow, because we have to keep sourcing materials, and that's a whole part of the value chain that's messed up for that industry right now, if that's how they did that. So changing gears. what would be different? Can we talk about some of the elements that would be different in a business that is thinking ahead? Or how do I think in terms of wanting my business to be long-term? Because as you said, the successful business yesterday is the failed business tomorrow. When it doesn't fit, we all remember like Palm Pilot and things like that, and the BlackBerry, yeah.
Right.
What would be different? Let's highlight some of the things that would be different in how we would look at trying to find longevity.
Right. And I think it really comes back to this idea that um, people and purpose drive organizations, and that when we link them up to succeed and perform at high levels, profit and performance become integrated. And when we bring all of those four spheres of business together, there's a sweet spot in the middle where profit and impact become one. And so, whether that involves the human capital of an organization, the financial capital, the natural capital that we use to develop things, having an integrated system with the right metrics for measuring people, purpose, profit, and performance, and then taking that data in a real-time way to drive organizational systems change implementation is really kind of the foundation of getting to sustainability. And really, long-term sustainability comes in business from incorporating regenerative cycles. If we think about businesses like, large ones, or industries like coffee, most of the coffee businesses, the larger ones like Starbucks, their main concern is where are they going to get coffee beans from?
Right.
Now, that approach has had some challenges over time because of geopolitics, exchange rates, political changes in across different countries. And so a good example that we all kind of became familiar with when COVID happened was the sourcing of medicine, simple things, very simple types of medicine, because the American industry for pharmaceuticals and very simple medicines that have been around for hundreds of years, in some cases, like aspirin or these other things, are all sourced from other countries on very fragile supply lines. Here on Kauai, we understand this quite well because our food supply system is very fragile. We've learned that. And we have about a 7 to 10 day shelf life if the supply chain gets cut off. And so that is a challenge for business that also is an opportunity. And the businesses of tomorrow, the successful ones, are starting to find ways to rehome production in ways that are equitable for employees here in the US, here in Hawaii, so that production and value add create not only systems of business and profit, but communities that thrive and have a solid economic base for generations, right? Regenerative human capital development in a business often looks like a father retiring and making room for a son to take his position in the company. You don't see that very often, but in a lot of really good companies where there are legacy workers and the economics of people and purpose and profit and performance are very sound and strategically integrated, these things and these aspects of life that make it regenerative become possible.
Yeah, I've heard you talk before about like Hershey's Corporation and how companies like that have morphed, right? And that they're really the successful enterprise, not the successful business, right? Because they have changed over time. I remember in the 90s hearing an interview with the CEO of McDonald's Corporation, and he said, I don't know what we'll be selling in the year 2000, but whatever we sell, we will be selling more of it than anyone else. And I never forgot that, because the viewpoint wasn't, and they posted, right, the number of burgers sold for forever, right? But he was not married to that. I loved the mindset, at least, right? of thinking in terms of we're going to figure out where we're headed and what's needed and then deliver that. And, you know, whatever someone thinks about the problems that they're solving versus the problems someone else is solving isn't the point. The point is that having that mindset of what do we need to adapt to? But when we have that, then the piece that you're talking about, Shane, the regenerative aspect becomes so important. And I really just want to, 1 second point there, is I want to highlight that profound sentence you said, where profit and impact become one. Because, you know, that's one of the mysteries to unlock. That doesn't necessarily make sense the first time we hear that. And it's taken me a while to understand it. But that's one that's worth writing down and mulling over again and again. Because when profit and impact become one, then we have transformed. Then we have hit a next level because we can be seeing in all directions instead of just seeing sort of the myopic view of what's the bottom line right now. And there's plenty of talk on Wall Street and everywhere else about how companies go wrong, focusing on the short-term gain for the shareholders and not thinking about even the long-term, just financially, not thinking about the what's best long-term financially. But what you're talking about is really what's best all around, not just for the dollars, not just, but not ignoring the dollars, right? Making these things work in harmony. And that, I think, is what we are wanting to call regenerative business, right?
Right. And I think when we apply that across the spectrum of value in a business, if we think about the McDonald's example, the mindset is very good, and it's one of the things that makes McDonald's successful. If we look at, because McDonald's, you know, if we look at the quality of their products, it's not the best burger. It's not the healthiest thing for you,
Right.
but they have a business system that strategizes in certain ways. I think the challenge as business evolves and community evolves and knowledge evolves is to really take the systems and the insight of successful business and metrics and apply them, because consumers are becoming more informed. And with that sense of information in the information age, you know, we're becoming these new generations are becoming more informed because of technology, innovation, and we live in an information age. That information is changing business, it's changing consumer behavior. America is a consumer economy. Most major economies are moving to consumer-based economies. And being mindful of the change in consumer taste is what is really going to drive and the successful businesses of tomorrow and separate the successful from the unsuccessful. Now, that being said, having the right kind of KPIs, right? The right key performance indicators that allow you to identify, define, and track the real lead metrics in an innovation-driven society, in an information age, become very different for organizations, whether you're selling a cup of coffee or a hamburger. Now, the regenerative aspects that a lot of people like to talk about, because there is a well-developed literature in regenerative agriculture, which has taken hold on in many sectors. And a lot of it has to do with long-term longitudinal studies by, you know, universities, the United Nations, that basically shows that over the longer period, 30 plus years, the most successful farming and agricultural approaches to producing high quality food is in fact organic farming. And so there's a shift, a gravitational shift, really a paradigmatic shift in agriculture, which is one of the four necessities of human life, right? Food, water, energy, air. Those are the things that make our species survivable. When something transformative happens in the agricultural sector, it starts to lean over into other aspects of business. And that regenerative aspect that's coming over from agriculture really is helping business people rethink their systems on how regenerative, or another way to think about it is how exploitive, right, on the other side,
Right.
are the practices and strategies that we use in my business, in my enterprise. And rethinking those is a whole set of systems approaches and a whole bunch of systems reflections. And when we focus on people and performance, profit, and purpose, right, there's a formula in there that we can use to actually transform our systems from being exploitive to being sustainable and regenerative. And that, I think, really is something to ponder and think about as business owners, because a lot of the times the walls that we hit, the walls that I've hit as a business owner, have been because I didn't understand the sustainability of one of the systems in my business, whether that was sourcing something, whether that was finding um, qualified help and the human capital needed to run my business. You know, one of the things that we're short on um, as an industry in the hotel industry is labor, right? So we have institutions and hotels now that don't have enough personnel in certain departments, and that becomes a limiting factor for business as a whole. Now, how we address that as technology evolves, as a country, as the nation evolves, is going to be the real answer is going to be a systematic approach. But I think by really integrating these strategies for sustained growth and transformation, right, and understanding that there's this mutual determination that's created by the four elements of people, profit, performance, and purpose, right? And I often refer to it as quadratic determination. And
Good term.
right, it's an interesting term because with a background in statistics, one of the things that we use to create models is multivariate regression. But in business, not everything is a straight line, right? New businesses can experience exponential growth. And so the line of best fit is actually a curve or a parabola. And when life, business, we live in these arcs and parabolas of a steep drop off in the ability of trees to be grown after demineralization, or a steep ramp up when we have a successful product that's timely, on point, affordable, and effective. And so these curves are often best described through what they call multivariate quadratic regression. And so this idea of quadratic determinism, using the data and the systems that we have across people, profit, performance, and purpose, and bringing those together to harmonize them, those are what determine success in business over the long term. And I think it's our belief at Seeding Change that, the regenerative business lives in the overlap of those kind of four quadrants, and creating the balance through systemic approaches to creating a healthy business is really what drives long-term success, right? Healthy people for the long term, healthy profit that, is having impact across multiple value points, and creating value both for the enterprise, the consumer, and the community, all driven by a long-term purpose to create a better enterprise than some of the ones that we've either inherited or experienced in the past. I think that's kind of one of the goals that Seeding Change is really bringing to the table in structured ways, and I'm excited about that because it's good work and it's very effective.
Absolutely. And, I think that you made the step there. We were talking about profit and impact becoming one. And now you're with this point on quadratic determination. And I think that's really the apex of our talk today, right? We can wrap after this. That now you're talking about basically, and why I love that image is it's all four things coming together as one, right? Like that overlap that you're talking about, where all four are healthy. That's really what we're defining as regenerative business, right? And there's the spot. Like, how do we help businesses, investors, real estate conglomerations, right, have this element. And how do they do that? And that's what Seating Change is for, is to help people move in that direction, bring these four things together and find out where their sweet spot is. And it's actually a convergence of multiple sweet spots. And we'll put together visuals on this, right, for the future. But this is really where we land. And what we're trying to share here is that that's what we do and help those businesses do for their future, help nonprofits aim toward, so that they can continue to be very attractive for the grants and things like that. And the businesses can take great care of their people, attract great talent, retain great talent, continue to show up with a good name in the community and be known for the good that they do. And I think that all puts it together. Is there anything you want to say as we wrap up?
No, I think that's actually really the trajectory that we're on. So I'll look forward to having more of these conversations, and maybe drawing up a couple infographics for the next time we get together to talk about these things, because there's a lot of good work to be done out there, and I'm excited to work on those things with you and the team together.
I am too. I love this team. All right. Well, we'll wrap it up there and we'll have more on our next installment.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Okay.